executive leader at the Speedway on October 1st of 2021. Rob's charge, if you will, is to encourage old customers to return to TMS and to encourage new customers to give the Texas Motor Speedway experience a try. While Rob has a new job, he is neither new to TMS or new to Fort Worth. In his previous role with TMS, Rob served as General Counsel and Director of Governmental Affairs and Senior Vice President of Finance and Compliance. Did you ever sleep? No. His efforts have spanned a variety of capacities, including risk management and working with governmental entities, business leaders, and community advocates. Before joining Speedway Motorsports, Ramage practiced law in the big city down the road, focused on complex litigation, intellectual property, and business transactions. Rob holds an undergraduate degree from the University of Oklahoma and earned his JD at the Oklahoma City University School of Law. He currently serves on numerous boards of directors that focus on supporting veterans, law enforcement-related causes, and transportation matters. He has been recognized for his charitable work for veterans by being named an honorary commander of the United States Air Force. His charitable activities include Speedway Children's Charities, the State Fair of Texas, Folds of Honor, Catholic Charities, and Texas Parks and Wildlife. If you've worked with Rob, you quickly appreciate his enthusiasm for the future of motorsports in Fort Worth, in Texas, and around the world. You also appreciate his commitment to building and maintaining positive relationships. In fact, Rob would make a great Rotarian because the way he works embodies our four-way test. Rob, you can consider that an invitation. So, please join me in a warm Rotary welcome for my friend, Rob Ramage.
Well, thank you all for having me. It's my honor to be here with you all. It's great to already have made some new friends and see some old faces I haven't seen in a while. I guess first and foremost, I've already learned three things being here with you today. One, I need to hire Gary to be my chief entertainment officer, chief comedian. I need you in the grandstands and on our world's largest TV talking your talk. And then I need to hire Brother Jim. Brother Jim's already shaken me down for stuff, and he needs to be head of NASCAR ticket selling. So Jim, I'll get with you and we'll work out some numbers later. The other thing I've learned is how much your club has in common with a racetrack, with our racetrack. You're about service, kindness, giving back, and you lead with a prayer. It was a wonderful invocation, and you're so patriotic. That's exactly who the Speedway is. So I don't have an agenda, so you're just going to listen to me ramble until somebody asks a question. So here we go. So how many of you have actually been out to a NASCAR race or an IndyCar race before? Wow, God love you, thank you. How many of you are going to come join us on May the 22nd for our NASCAR race? All right, y'all see me afterwards and I'm going to give y'all special passes. The rest of you can just be jealous. So let me tell you a little bit about Texas Motor Speedway. So as you know, if you've been there or read much about us, we're 1,600 acres. We have multiple different complexes on the property, including a condominium tower with 76 units. We own 5. The others are 100% occupied. Then we have 110,000 square feet of retail, commercial, office space. One of the blessings in my life is, besides trying to sell NASCAR tickets and wear all the other hats, is I get to manhandle that aspect of our business, which is significant. So I'm really kind of a small, medium-sized landlord, if you will. Prior to the pandemic, a lot of people, particularly my friends, will, Ramage, what do you do outside of your 2 NASCAR races or maybe a Red Bull event or an IndyCar race? Prior to the pandemic, our Speedway would host say on average 772 publicly attended events per annum. So there's something going on there every day, and it's a variety of events. It's concerts, car shows, trade shows, corporate retreats, all kinds of random activities. Since the pandemic, we're now doing around 400, as best as I can guess, around 400 different events per annum. So our business is coming back. An example of a unique event, and I was talking to Mike Crum about this prior to the event, our city is, as Mike reminded me, well, we're the 12th largest city in our country. Today, we have the beautiful art fair and all that stuff going on. I got here early and was fortunate enough to have 30 minutes or so to walk it. But at my property, I have the other end of the spectrum. So we're hosting the world's largest outdoor festival as we speak. Today, I will have 15 to say 20,000 unique visitors. Tomorrow, 40 to say 50, 55,000 visitors, depending upon the wind and the weather. Sunday, 15 to 20,000 visitors. And so if you're a duck hunter, which I am, it's with Ducks Unlimited. The inside of the racetrack is all UTVs, mechanized vehicles, waterfowl-centric activities. And on the exterior campus, we have a pistol, a rifle, AR gun range, and we're shooting skeet, and then we have an archery range. Last year, in a 2.5-day time period, we shot over 69,000 rounds on that property. So if you're a gun person, come on out. The theory and the design, suppose Brother Mitch Whitten wants to buy a new AR or a new shotgun or a new bow. Well, it's kind of a try and buy type experience. So he can come out and I'll hold his hand and we'll load that gun for him, and I'll lean over him and I'll be with you, Mitch, and you can shoot it, and then a salesman will try and take your wallet away from you and sell you a new gun. So that's kind of what we do. Like the Rotary Club, how you serve and how you're a servant to the community and your own unique causes, so are we. Most people don't know this about Texas Motor Speedway, but we have our own charity. It's called Speedway Children's Charities, and our focus is on children in Tarrant, Denton, Collin, and Dallas counties. And each year, I'm very honored to say that we'll raise anywhere from $500,000 to say $800,000. And our platform is solely to help children's causes. So as we all know, there's unfortunately 85 million different causes that need help for children. And so when I took over, one of the things that I wanted us to do was sharpen our focus, narrow it, and with the thinking that we could be more impactful and be more successful in raising money for the children. So this year, we're not solely focused, but primarily focused on human trafficking. The evils that come with that, our governor and attorney general, I served on a committee for event venues, and I learned a lot about the evils of human trafficking. As we sit here right now in the greatest state in the country, there's approximately 79,000 children that are being victimized by human trafficking. I didn't know that until I served on that committee. No matter wherever you are in the great state of Texas, within a 1.3 mile radius of you is a child in need that's a victim of human trafficking. So that's going to be one of our focuses. If anyone in this room has another group, or maybe this group, that you too help out children being victimized by human trafficking, please see me after this, because maybe we can partner up or do things together. So that's kind of who we are, what we do in that area. The NASCAR racing, that's our big business. That's what we do. When a NASCAR race comes to town, we become a small city, good, bad, or indifferent. I become the mayor of that city. So We'll have essentially 13 different campgrounds that are open for different kind of people wanting to do different types of things. We have grandstands that'll be full, and we have over 202 64-person suites, of which the majority will be full. We have all kinds of other hospitality things, stuff like that. So one of the things I'm frequently asked about, and Mike alluded to earlier, is, well, what's different than you, than your predecessor, or what are you doing that's very different? So I grew up with racing. And so my dad was a race car driver, not by his primary occupation, but just something that he did since he was a child. And then he owned racing teams when I grew up. So I grew up at race car tracks all across the United States, despite being in Dallas at a law firm. That's kind of who I am. So from the fan perspective, I get it. So a lot of the different things that I've implemented are more fan-centric, fan-focused, and fan-friendly. You kind of saw it for my first race in the October NASCAR race, if you were there, where we're making bigger investments into the fans, creating a festival type experience of fun, entertainment that doesn't have anything to do with motorsports racing. An example of that is, who in here can raise their hand and tell me who's going to do our pre-race concert for the May race, other than Mike, Mitch, or Jason? You can do it? So do you know? Okay, you in the back with the young lady. You are correct. So you too can see me after this, and I just upgraded you. So Blake Shelton. So a household name. You certainly can't watch NBC without seeing Blake Shelton. He's everywhere. So the people who I talked to were Garth Brooks, George Strait, and Blake Shelton. And Blake Shelton is going to do a 60-minute concert. So if you were going to Dickies Arena and you were going to see Blake perform, that's about what you would get, is a 60-minute concert. So that's an example of that humongo investment that I'm putting myself out there, and our company is too, for the betterment of our fans, so that they have more of a wonderful experience, if you will. Then you look at the run of show. So if you go to my website, you will see that, wow, this guy is doing all kinds of things that have very little to do with a NASCAR race, but it's creating that fun weekend environment to where my campers have a 8 in the morning till 2:30, 3 a.m., whatever time, of activities and things that they can choose to elect in if they want. Those things have never been done at TMS, so it's kind of a new vision. The wonderful councilman who I work with and know, and he's been to my races before, Mike, Mitch, and Jason know that my singular most important objective, my guardrails for success, are that my grandstands look like my city. And that's my goal. And I don't want to just see my grandstands with people that look like me. I want to see a lot of them, but I want to see our grandstands look more like our community, our society, and our city. I'm very passionate about that. So one thing that will be announced on Monday, even though there's a camera going, it's a secret inside the room, is I'll have a huge announcement. And I'm doing something that's never been done before. So if Mitch or Jason in the city of Fort Worth, or you, councilman, if you want a bunch of cowboys and cowgirls to come to an event, I would suggest that you need to have a rodeo or a horse show or something centric and important to that community. So something that is outside the box, where I'm really, for the first time in the history of NASCAR, welcoming the Hispanic community to come join me, is I've got 2 post-race concerts immediately following the All-Star race. And I have other things that are going to happen throughout the day that they'll see They're going to come to my property, they're going to be there early, and they're going to feel welcomed and wanted and appreciated. They're going to watch a NASCAR race and they're going to have fun. And then they're going to see maybe kind of sort of what they really came for. Two household names of bands perform right before their eyes. And of course, they'll get to see Blake Shelton as well. So that's kind of my vision. The African American community is extremely important to me. And if you follow and watch NASCAR, you see now where we have one major series or cup driver that's African American and a couple more that race in lesser tier series. And for the first time in the history of NASCAR, you see big time wealthy team owners who just happen to be African American. So I'm working and communicating with them so that then I can go before those communities and with their help and genuinely welcome members of the African American community. And I'll continue to do the same with all ethnicities so that ultimately the guardrails for success, when you look up after the end of the race or during the race and you see the grandstands, my grandstands look like our city. So that's my goal. Though, well, thank y'all, and y'all didn't need to do that, but y'all hold me accountable to that. And it's something that means a lot. It's important to me. It's important to our business that everyone knows that they're wanted and welcome, will be treated with great respect and have fun. I'm not giving any money back, but you'll have fun, trust me. So then also kind of sort of giving back to the community. You know, we work hand in hand with the city of Fort Worth. We can't do our job without the city of Fort Worth. We can't. Police, fire, all different forms of law enforcement, emergency services, everything from sanitation to water to all kinds of stuff. We know that, I appreciate that, and I value that. And that's why councilmen and these three men here know that they have the keys to the property. And whatever TMS can do to help out the city, we will. As a good example, during the pandemic, I'm on the board of the State Fair of Texas, and we were doing COVID shots. And so I'm watching on the news and I'm seeing people my parents' age that are in their 80s standing in line. And they're standing in the cold and the rain, and they're going to get their COVID shots, and they're probably catching COVID or the flu while they're in line from being outdoors in the elements. So that was kind of giving us a black eye, if you will, on the board, even though we didn't have anything to do with it. So I reached out the city and Denton County and the governor and people like NIMKID and stuff like that. We wanted our property to become the hub, the epicenter, if you will, for the COVID vaccines. We worked together. Kind of a funny story. It was a perfect marriage between government and public health. And I can remember being in a meeting, this is kind of cocktail trivia, or it might make you laugh, I don't know. Being in a meeting, and I'm there with 60 people, and everybody's smart in the room except for me. But we know how to move people. We know how to move cars. We know logistics and things of that nature. We were talking, and so I kind of raised my hand, and just to give everybody peace in the room, that don't worry about wreckers and don't worry about fuel trucks. I've got that taken care of. And everybody, you know, what do we need wreckers for? What do we need fuel trucks for? And I'm not talking like a big Sunoco fuel truck on the highway. I'm talking about a pickup truck with 5-10 gallons of gasoline in the back bed of the pickup truck. And everybody told me, well, Ramage, we don't need that. That doesn't make sense. The very first day we did those shots, we had 2 vehicles break down. And so we hooked up a wrecker to those people, and they got their vaccines while they were being towed behind one of our wreckers. And then we had cars run out of gasoline. Not everybody in our city, as weird as this may sound to some of you, can afford to have full tank gas. And that was when the prices were cheaper than they are now. People run out of gas. Not everybody can afford to drive a fancy brand new automobile. And those are things that I'm used to very much in my life. So it was that ultimate marriage, if you will, between people like me and public health officials and government leaders. So what become of that was TMS became the world's largest vaccine site. So we gave out over 440,000 vaccines. We broke 2 world records anywhere in the world for the most vaccines given in one day. Initially, it was 16,484, and then that was surpassed by the ultimate record of 17,028 in one day. And of that 5-month time period, we never, ever, 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 ever lost our 22-minute efficiency time period. So that was the total time that you arrived on our property. We have counters, we had drones, we had all kinds of stuff that we can measure this. And then unbeknownst to most people, you can kind of sort of peek into somebody's phone without them knowing it, and we can get the stopwatch going. So the 22 minutes was inclusive, if you recall, where the CDC said if you get your shot, you got to sit in your car for 15 minutes because you may faint. So you were really going through that process for 7 minutes. And that became the gold standard, in my opinion, for the United States, and something that the CDC and other entities came down and monitored. And really kind of change stuff around. Good begets good. During that time period, most people who know me well know I'm in Austin frequently, usually getting beat up at the Capitol, trying to do the Lord's work and pass bills that are important to TMS. And anybody that's ever done politics knows you can kind of count your votes before it's needed. So if I had a business matter with Fort Worth City Council, I would reach out to the councilman and, hey, here's kind of what I'm trying to do. And he would tell me, Rob, I love you, buddy, and I know you're trying to do the right thing, but I can't support you. I can't help you. All right, well, okay, thanks anyway. And I can kind of count my votes. 2 neat things. Well, one really neat thing that came of that was I had a bill, and it was before a Senate committee, and I counted my votes, and I knew I'm going to lose. I knew that that's not going to be in my favor, but I still got to go through the process, and who knows, maybe something will change. So when I was there on the Senate floor, I could look in the back of the room and see the lieutenant governor. And anyway, so they call out my bill. He comes out and says, King's X, I'm the president of the Senate. And before Rob begins, I want to acknowledge the Speedway. The Speedway is turned down, in reality, north of $1 million in business that we just lost, so that we could use our facility to give back to our community and provide vaccines to. And he talked about the world records and everything else. And just as I'm looking at you now, I could look at those senators and I could see them, yesterday maybe it was no, maybe today it's now, and that bill passed. So it's kind of sweet and always be something I remember, but my point in telling y'all that, y'all know this because it's who you are. Good things come to good people. And even if they don't, you're still a good person. And that's the way we are at the racetrack. So anybody have any questions? How fast do the cup cars go? How many people die in the campgrounds? How many divorces happen? How many marriages happen? How many children are birthed during a NASCAR weekend? Yes. Those are the normal questions I get. So a NASCAR Cup car on our racetrack, that car will get to about 194 mile an hour. somewhere between 94 and 202, but most generally 194 mile an hour. The IndyCar. So we had an IndyCar race 2 weeks ago. Those are the people. So an IndyCar, much like the car you drive on the way home, there's no foot accelerator, foot brake. Everything's on a steering wheel that's about this big. Those guys 2 weeks ago got up to 231. And the reason why they only get up to 231 is most of them will tell you that if I get up to 232 or 233, about where my bald spot is, it starts getting hot, so much to where it's almost kind of hot to touch. And I can feel it kind of coming down. And when that heat gets about where my hairline is, I'm going to black out and I'll fall asleep. So because of the G forces. And so most of them will kind of stop at that 231, 230 range. The young man who won it, are you cutting me off or?
What I have to say is this is just to be continued. That means you have to come
Yeah,
back.
well, deal. See y'all when I see you. Quickly, I'll leave you with the numbers, Brother Gary. About 3 people die each weekend, and there's about 3 babies being born. So we're even Steven. And the divorces that happen, I don't keep track of that. But I would say during a Cup weekend, we'll be asked, we have a lot of religious services throughout the track, and there'll be about 20 to 25 weddings. And if you're a season's ticket holder, and this is a big thing in my world, your trophy bride wants to have her important ceremony on the start-finish line. And if you're a season's ticket holder, I'll let you get married there.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for joining us today. We particularly appreciate the diverse and broad audience that you bring to our community to do business, and also your community orientation, whether it's graduation ceremonies during the COVID breakdown, the incredible vaccine numbers that you hit, and the Speedway Children's Charities. As a token of our appreciation, we donate a book to the Fort Worth Library, and that's a copy of the book plate.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. We hope to see much more of you here. So, thank you all for joining us today. I have a few quick messages to relay. Thank you again to Visit Fort Worth, to Mitch Whitten, Jason Sands. We particularly appreciate your sponsorship. You too can be a sponsor. Mark Moore or Aurora can tell you more. And just a very quick note, blue bonnets. There are blue bonnets at Rotary Plaza. It's not as robust as we had hoped, but it is a very tight blue bonnet season statewide. We do need some truck drivers one for each weekend for the parade that we were talking about. And we're looking for the dualies, or you let me know what we've got. It just needs the standard ball hitch. And there's no meeting next week in observance of Good Friday. Thank you again. This meeting is adjourned.